Hi everyone, I'm Hannah, the museum educator here at the Transcona Museum. Welcome to the first day of Craft With Us Sports Week. Today we will be making a stuffed paper football. So for this craft, you're going to need brown paper. We're using like the brown wrapping paper. You could also use brown construction paper. You're going to need about 2 to 3 arms lengths worth of yarn. You can use any color you'd like, but I'm going to be using white yarn today. You're going to need some kind of stuffing to stuff the football. I have actual stuffing here that you would use for like a teddy bear or something, but you can also use newspaper shreds or paper shreds. We also, this isn't necessary, but we have it available on our website, is a football template. If you go to the At Home tab under Craft With Us, there's a button to be able to print off that template. You could also just freehand it, but it's up to you. Then we'll also need glue, a pencil, scissors, and I'm going to be using a single hole punch, but you could also just use scissors to poke the holes to thread the yarn through. All right, so let's get started. So to start off, you're going to want to trace the football template or just freehand it onto the brown paper. I just cut the football template out and trace that. If you are doing freehanded, I would suggest that you fold your paper in half and draw your freehanded football on one side and then cut while it's still folded, just so that both sides are even, because they're going to have to be even as we thread the yarn and put them together. But if you're using the template, you can fold it in half, or you could also just draw out 2 of the ovals. All right, so I have those already traced out, so I'm just going to cut the 2 sides out. So many of you may know, some of you may not know, that Transcona does have its own football team. The name Transcona Nationals has been, the team name Transcona Nationals has been around since 1912. And that name was derived from the Transcontinental Railway. It wasn't really, football and the Transcona Nationals were around before 1957, but 1957 is when things really started to, I guess, pick up for the Transcona Nationals, and they became like a team and a league. So in 1957, 3 men with only a couple of dollars in the bank started a boys 16 and under team in a league together with Fort Garry, St. Vital, St. John Ravenscourt, and Transcona. So I've got my one side cut out. Now we'll cut the other. In 1958 as well, the Transcona Stadium Commission granted permission to the Transcona Nationals to play at the stadium field. East End Community Club also gave them permission to use their fields and their changing rooms, and same with the Transcona Curling Club as well. The Transcona Curling Club doesn't actually exist anymore, but it was just down the street from the museum on Regent Avenue, right next to where the 7-Eleven is today. All right, so I have my 2 pieces of my football cut out. So the next step for this craft is, I'm just gonna move the paper aside, is to punch holes around the two cutouts so that we can thread the yarn through. You can distance them however you want. I did about that far apart from each other, but it's up to you. It also depends on how much yarn you have as well. All right. So hold them together while you staple the hole or punch the holes, just so that they're the same on both of the templates and they line up. Also, if you need to trim the cutouts to be even with each other, do that. All right, so I'm just gonna start punching. And make sure it's far enough down as well from the edge of the cutout just so that you don't have any breakage, I guess, right here. Try to make them as evenly spaced as possible. It's not going to be perfect, but so when the league began in 1958, it scheduled 6 teams of players all 18 and under. Actually, that year, 1958, the Transcona Nationals won 9 out of their 10 games. But unfortunately, they lost their last game in a sudden death final, unfortunately, but they still played very good. All right, so I've punched the holes all around the 2 cutouts. Make sure that they line up. All right, so now that they line up, now we are going to start threading the yarn through. So take the longest piece of yarn you have and pick a hole to tie it around. So I'm going to choose this one. So make a knot. Here, I'll just point the camera downwards so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just tying a tiny knot around whatever hole you want. Okay, so there's my tie. I'll just cut off the excess. Don't cut off the long part of the string, just the short part of the string, because the longer part is what we're going to weave through the holes. So now that we have our first hole tied on, we're just going to start threading it through the holes. So I would suggest doing an over under kind of threading through, just so you can really see the yarn. Comment in the chat if any of you have ever played on maybe the Transcona Nationals or like a other Transcona football team. I know that Murdoch McKay has a football team, or maybe there's other Winnipeg leagues that you might have played in. And the Transcona Nationals really continued to grow over the years, adding more teams, more age groups, and they've moved to various locations until the Optimus Park at 875 McMeans Avenue East, and that's their current home. Many of you probably have been there, maybe seen a game there, know people that play on the teams in that location. And that location is home to more than 200 players. And now that I'm about halfway weaving my football, make sure you don't weave it all the way closed because we have to add our stuffing next. So I'm just gonna do a couple more holes and then I'll add my stuffing. Make sure to leave yourself enough space or in a big enough hole to add in the stuffing, especially if you're using shredded newspaper or regular shredded paper, just because it's a bit, I guess, less or more stiff than the stuffing I'll be using. All right. So this is what I have so far, and now I'm going to add the stuffing. Just gonna open the football up. Got my bag of stuffing here. Also, many of you might have seen that the museum was supposed to open to the public today, but we just, due to some unforeseen circumstances, we were not able to open today. But we will be open to the public tomorrow for fully vaccinated individuals and children 12 and under to fully vaccinated individuals. So feel free to stop by and check out our exhibit. We will also be having in-person craft with us eventually. We'll announce when we're going to be starting that. Okay, so I've stuffed my football. You can move your stuffing around. Oops, move your stuffing around so that it's kind of spread throughout the football so you have your football shape. All right, and then you're just gonna continue doing that under-over motion with your yarn until you get to the last hole. And then you're just going to tie it off like we did the first hole. We still have craft kits available for Sports Week, so if you're interested in crafting along with us on Wednesday to make a hockey stick magnet or on Friday to make a baseball necklace, think about purchasing a craft kit so you have all of the supplies you need for those crafts. Since we're open to the public tomorrow, you can come in and pick it up. We have some ready. Or you could order it on the website and then come pick it up. All right, so I'm on my last hole here. So I'm just going to thread it through the first hole that we had where we tied it off. See there, this is the hole that we tied it off, and I just threaded it through again. Kind of wrap it around so you have a double loop there, but then you're just gonna tie it off like you did the first loop. Yeah, and just tie it around the string that's there. All right. So I'm just gonna cut the excess off. So here we have the stuffed paper football, but we just have to add one more thing to it, or a couple more things, I guess. So now that we have made the shape of the football, we've stuffed it, we've put the two cutouts together, we're going to make the lines that are on the football. So take your second piece of yarn and cut them to whatever length you'd like your the lines on your football to be. So I'm gonna make one slightly longer one and then three shorter ones. So the slightly longer one will be the one that I lay down flat on the middle of the football, and then the three shorter ones will be the ones that I lay across the football. And I would say make sure they're about the same size just so it's even. All right. So I've cut my three shorter pieces. So we're just gonna take the glue and glue those down. You can use hot glue if you have. Just make sure that an adult is present when you're using hot glue. But if not, I'm just gonna be using white glue. That works too. Seems that my glue is clogged. Just 1 second. There we go. Okay. I would say have a surface that you can get glue on just because it's kind of hard to keep all the glue on the piece of yarn. All right, so we have our first line glued down. So then we're going to take our three shorter pieces and glue them across. So just kind of glue the back of the yarn, making sure not to put too much just because we don't want a ton spilling over. Right. Last one. All right. I would say let those dry just so they don't fall off. But here you have your stuffed paper football. To maybe take it outside, throw it around, see if it actually flies well. Just tilt the camera upwards. All right. So I hope you enjoyed the first day of Craft with Us Sports Week. Join us on Wednesday to make a hockey stick magnet and on Friday to make a baseball washer necklace. If you're interested in crafting along with us on those days, feel free to stop by the museum tomorrow. We're open to the public as of tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. To pick up craft kits. So you have all the supplies you're going to need. Keep an eye out on our social media. We will be announcing fairly soon in-person crafting. In-person crafting will have limited space and we'll have a couple groups throughout the day, so you'll have to pre-register for that. So keep an eye out before spaces fill up. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you have a great day.